Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing okay. Yeah.
Um, I mean, that's good for sure.
Yeah.
Or okay, depending on how you want to look at it.
Uh-huh.
Wah, 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 wah. Um, let's see here. I'm gonna move show notes so I can see everything. It's been kind of a weird week at normal life, so let's have a weirder week. Um, here. Started off weird.
Richard's here. Hey, Richard.
Good morning, Richard. All right,
Well,
I got maybe the kinks ironed out, so I think I'm working now.
I guess we'll find out if we have sound on the one screen,
That's true.
right?
Okay, here I'm
Uh,
gonna hold on. Let me get
are
ready
we
for this. I'll
okay?
push the button,
All
and
right.
and then I'm gonna turn up the volume. Okay, and do your thing. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Mine is not faint. Yeah, mine is on. It's just Greg's. All right. Anyway, thank you to all these people on this list. You're all really important to us. I'll have to figure out why Greg's audio is not working. Held at the top, thanks so much. If you guys want to be a part of the madness and join the Discord channels and the private community stuff, you can find it at patreon.com/3dmakeit. And you can also follow us at www.3dmakeit.ca for all our socials and all the other stuff there. So, yeah, we'll have to fix Greg's audio. It's just his that doesn't work on that channel. So,
So I guess you get to do all the Patreon talking.
yeah. I'll be like, hello.
I said lots of great
He
stuff
did.
too.
He said he liked you. Just to be clear, he said he liked you.
And morning, Stig.
Morning, Stig. It was like a Grammy acceptance speech, you know.
And he played me off and everything.
Boom. Wait, hold on. I got a button for that. Why don't I push there you go. Okay. Yeah, but seriously, in all seriousness, thanks for following us there. Next week, we'll be doing. I just want to check the date because there's one weekend I'm gone, but I think next weekend we'll do our Patreon chat. So if you are a Patreon and you are here, that's what we're doing next week. So you can join us live in the Discord or the restream or just here if that's what you're comfortable with. But it's a Patreon themed chat just for you.
Just for you.
Just for you Patreons.
Woohoo. All right.
There's one more housekeeping bit that I just wanted to really quickly talk about. Greg and I are changing some of the formatting a little bit on the live streams. There's one thing that's going to be harder and down the road, but there's one thing that'll be sooner and not down the road, and that is we're going to use the live stream audio for doing podcasts as well.
We've talked about this for a while.
We have.
We're just getting organized so that it actually happens.
So there's a few things that we're going to need from you guys while you're watching. If you make a comment that you do not want on the podcast, or you do not want us to say your names on the podcast, which both are fine, but if you don't want them to show up in podcast form and you just want it to be local kind of to the YouTube chat, which is cool, just comment before your comment. Do not post or do not read. Either one is fine, DNR, DNB. And then we'll know not to add you into the podcast. If you don't want your name in the podcast and you're a Patreon, just let us know on the Discord server. We don't want to, I forget what the term's called, dox. I believe dox is the term. We don't want to do that to anybody. So if you want to be private,
Dominic.
be private. But yeah, just let us know if your question, you don't want it to show up in the podcast. We have 2 episodes right now. One's the intro episode, but we
Yeah.
post everywhere where podcasting can be posted. So
Yeah. I tried to log into our service the other night because it said the password changed. It was weird.
yeah, I got the email that said, "Hey, there's some suspicious activity."
And I couldn't log in, so we'll have to reset that.
Yeah, but so that's coming too, because we do know that a lot of you like to enjoy to like listen and watch after, which is fine and great, and that'll just be another venue for you guys to watch it.
Yeah.
And then the other change, like I said, it'll take a while, but we're gonna start trying to take topics a little deeper in the live stream. And then we can cut them up and pull them out and make them part of like our routine videos. So
yeah. We'll
But that
see. Well,
one's-
it's an evolution.
It's
So
an
we'll see how
evolution, baby.
we'll see how it goes.
You know what was sad this weekend, Greg, particularly?
You ran out of pop.
So yes, and then when I went to buy more, they didn't have the correct pop. They only had the 0, and I'm like, oh no.
Oh wow.
But all right, so that's my tragic life. So we got a few things today. We actually got quite a few things, and the first one's
Yes.
actually an important thing for some of our followers particularly, but for anybody who's bought a Creality printer in the last
little
2
while.
years with a 4.22 board or a 4.27 board.
Yeah, we've noticed some curious things happening, and we've had a few of them go wrong, shall we say?
Yeah, and I mean, so we have the luxury of having deployed a lot of printers, and we're kind of like the bottleneck for the printers when they come back, and I actually experienced this personally on a printer I own too, but like the boards in question, the 4.22 and the 427 boards, are generally used in the Ender 3 V2 Pros in that
Yes.
kind of age group there.
Yeah.
And I'm on my mic cord. That's not good.
Yeah. We've noticed, at least I've noticed, they seem to be set a little high on their voltage.
Yeah, so when I took the one apart, I had, and like mine was, I think, not this year, last year Christmas maybe time roughly. Could be the year before too, but like, so a normal VREF for a 2208 or 2209 TMC driver, like I none of my stepper drivers are driven over 1,000 for VREF.
Yeah, it's very, mine are typically set around between 580 for the regular ones.
Yeah.
And then if I need a little more torque,
Yep.
closer to 800.
Yeah, so to be specific to like the regular steppers, the ones that don't do a lot of work, yeah, those are so like if you have a small printer, moving that gantry up doesn't take much work, so that would be like around a 600. The X motor, that'd be 600. The Y gantry, that one, so the bed, when it's moving, it can take a little more, but on like a small Ender printer, you wouldn't go over again like 650, 600 in there. The one that usually requires a good amount of torque, and that's because it's the one that's always working, would be the extruder.
Yeah.
So it actually
definitely
needs some work,
that
right?
one. Yeah, that one definitely needs more. Now we've had, I had one that I was using kind of on my desk, and that one, the X kept overheating and I was like, why? Like, it's been working fine. I don't know what's going on. And so I checked it, and yeah, it was set to 1.2.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
it's like,
And then I checked the other ones. They were all set to 1.2.
so from a serviceable standpoint, that's going to work probably for the first little bit. And like Raymond just mentioned that he's like, even the X motor is pretty bad. And yeah, that's what happens. When you set those VREFs too high, you're going to do one of two things. The stepper motor is going to give out because it just can't keep up, and
Yeah.
it'll overheat and seize. Or you're going to get more than likely stepper burnout, because those stepper drivers are getting hotter than they need to be, and they burn.
way hotter. And so that is something we had another gentleman who brought his printer in, and his it would start printing.
Yep.
It would get the first layer or two down, and then it wouldn't lift anymore. It would still continue to print, but it would knock the print off and whatnot. We're like, what's going on? Well, the stepper driver, the voltage dropped to 0.1.
It just goes boom. And then
so it's totally fried.
The one I had was the extruder would quit, like it would jitter. So you'd print the first one fine, and then it would look like over extrusion, then under extrusion, and then every kind of extrusion on the planet except the right one. And then like Greg said, on the one at work that he prints on, it was the bed, wasn't it? The Y?
No, the the Y. It was the Y. You're right. Yep. Yeah, it would get to the point where everything else was working, but the bed would just like stop.
Yeah. And so the thing, so there was a period of time, not long ago, actually, maybe like, let's say a year and a half, 2 years, where there's this fad. And the fad was, you need to add so much cooling to your control board, right? You need fans everywhere. You need to cool your controller because your stepper drivers are going to overheat, because these new TMC drivers everybody was throwing in. So we move away from the Elgato. These TMCs are hot. Really, really hot, right?
Well, but they're only hot when you overdrive them.
Yes. I mean, so the 21 series could get warm.
Oh, yeah. The 21, and they actually, those ones, even if you tone them down, they were
you
spicy. You could, if you like toasty marshmallows, you could toast them on them.
Yeah. And then that's when now I'm hungry. Thanks. But that's when we started seeing like innovations in the stepper driver themselves. So then they came out with like Cool Guard. And then like Big Tree Tech started putting like giant pads for heat sinks on them.
Yeah.
Right? And like it used to be like the pad was just a little like, 3 millimeter square. And then it's
what frustrates me is, Creality has gone to all the effort to do these silent steppers and whatnot, but they don't bother to do UART. So you could have them set via software.
Yep.
So you don't have to go in and screw around with the little potentiometer in there. And that's just frustrating, because if you buy a third party board, pretty much all of them now are set up for UART.
Yep. And so I guess like we shouldn't say that like UART's the end all be all, because you can have statically set drivers, but for the average user, like for a normal person, and I mean normal's a strong word with the company we keep, right? But with normal people, it's something that like for example, we showed a coworker how to do it because he's never done it, right? You have to take a voltmeter out. You have to open the printer up. And in the case, and I've complained about this before, but in the case of an Ender 3, you have to tip the stupid thing over, take all the screws out. Then you're putting hopefully you have either a conductive end for your voltmeter or an alligator clip that you can put on the thing to do it easily. Otherwise, you're like going to turn it in gas. And like pots are great. We mean boring people. It's Dig. You got it. But like there's this old, let's call this old vanguard, I guess the old guard of 3D printing, and lots of us in here are that guard, where we were used to like opening the printer up and then changing the pots if we had to, or replace some of the onboard solder steps, right? Or solder
adding a whatchamacallit for the heat bed.
MOSFET.
MOSFET, yes.
Yeah. We have videos on those too, by the by, if you wanted to see those. But like there's this stuff that we used to do that you just like on a smaller printer now, like an Ender 3, you don't have to worry about, right? The MOSFET as an example. They've gotten to the point where the onboard ones are pretty okay for that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's just kind of frustrating that you buy a product and it's not as fine tuned at the factory as it really should be. Like all those boards should have they've
yep,
made enough of those printers that someone should be presetting all the boards
yep.
before they even
Oh, for sure.
get put into the printer.
I'm gonna say something radical here, but could you imagine if Creality partnered with Big Tree Tech?
Oh, that
Right?
that
Wouldn't
would be
that be
that'd be
amazing?
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because then you get the boards, like they're already making boards for it, and they know that they're better boards. It'll be interesting to see, and this kind of segues, I guess, into the next topic. But it'll be interesting to see what these new versions of Printer Creality has coming out, like what controller plans they have.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
and we're looking for news and whatnot, and they've teased a couple things.
Yeah.
The one is be fast, and they're teasing that they have a new FDM printer that is supposedly where
Yep.
everyone's suspecting it's Core XY, and it's like supposedly really to compete with Bamboo, I think. And then they also are talking light speed, so they're have got a new either DLP or laser or something printer that's supposed to be also fast. So
Yep.
they're coming out with some new stuff. So we'll see how it works,
Yep.
but we really don't know a lot yet. We don't know a
So
lot.
there's one thing that I probably know for sure is get ready for the first wave to be beta testing units.
Yep.
They won't work properly. And this is something that Creality has shown over and over and over. Like right from the original series they made, like the original CR10, right? Like it would catch fire because they forgot about bed strain relief and like other things, right? And then the CR10S was basically the beta version of that printer that was
And
re-released.
then the CR6, their brand new one, had a switch issue. I think
Yep.
Ray was familiar with that. They had issues with that. So they're
Well, they had
not
a
good.
board
They're
issue that
not.
caused fire too. So,
They're not good at their initial launches.
so am I excited for them? Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'll see what they are. If it's a Core XY, it's about time to have like a really good entry. But like
Yeah, I mean they tried.
their branding is really funny, and lots of printer companies are doing this. So like there is something to be said about a printer that can print a bit faster. Okay, like yes, it would be nice to have some parts faster, but
Yeah.
like especially in the hobby level, if it prints in 12 hours versus 9 hours, you're in bed anyway. You know,
Yeah.
like you're
Yeah.
gonna be sleeping during your print.
Okay. I'm going to do a prediction. Okay.
Where's your
So
ball? Need crystal ball.
for their FDM printer,
Mhm.
I'm thinking it's going to be Core XY.
Mhm.
I'm thinking it's going to use Clipper,
Yep.
and it's going to integrate the gyro so that it can detect all of the acceleration and compensate for it. Right, it's all going to be integrated in so
Yep.
that they. So those are my predictions for it. So it's going to be very similar. It's going to be Bamboo feature-esque.
Yeah,
Now,
bamboo
now,
or
now,
Voron-esque.
are they going to try to copy the LiDAR thing that Bamboo did? Don't think so, because Bamboo has even taken that off on their lower end one.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool, but I think the kind of cost prohibitive. Now
It's a
I don't
failed
know.
experiment, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's failed.
Well,
but
not yeah. It's just unnecessary at the hobby level, I should say.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now I don't have. I'm not a big FDM or sorry resin guy, so I will leave the prediction on that one to you. What do you think on the resin side?
I mean, with resin, you're kind of at the mercy of the resin itself, right? Because the resin has to cure before it can go to the next layer. So you can make it bigger. You can add better UV screens. We saw the laser resin, like the SLAs and
Yeah.
the laser stuff that can print faster than the normal like DLP printers that we have right now. Will they make it faster? No, but I think they're going to make it bigger. I think
Okay.
because
Yeah.
we all know that the print time on a resin printer, whether you print one part or two parts, is the same, right?
Right.
Because it's all one build plate. So how do you make it print faster? You make it print bigger, right? Like we saw Elegoo do it. We've seen Anycubic do it.
So what if they come out with something that really totally blows us away? Like that they actually make it faster.
I mean, that would be revolutionary.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that
I,
that Creality goes revolutionary too often.
well, I mean, they don't go revolutionary, but they definitely go evolutionary, right?
Absolutely.
Like, they're very good
Absolutely.
at iterating. And so I think we're going to see a good product here. But again, I think we're going to have to wait past the beta testing phase, like to actually see like mass adoption. I hope they don't have a start like they had with the Smart series or the dual filament one. I forget the
Oh
name
yeah,
of
yeah,
that
yeah,
one,
yeah.
but like I hope that they do this right. If they do send the unit out to
Now
power
are they
users, I mean, don't send them for review. Send them as, hey, I need you to print with this.
now are they going to price themselves out of the market though? That's the other thing. Are they going to? Do you think they'll come out of the gate with their FDM and price it at the same level as the bamboo, or are they going to undercut the bamboo?
I think there's a lot of space in the high end consumer grade stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of competition right there right now.
Well,
So
and you look at like the Avoron, for example.
yeah,
It you do put a lot of effort into building it. Plus, all the parts are not cheap because
no, yeah,
you're getting fairly the build plate is very premium because of the way they manufacture it and everything. So you spend $1,200-$1,300 just on the parts, and then you have to spend hours building it, right?
yep.
So I could see the printer being a really quite a decent price. Now, are they launching a printer or a line of printers?
Yeah, they don't know. Like, and we don't
Right?
know.
It's just a tease, right? So a lot of this is very big speculation.
So Stig comment says he has 3 years experience, but he would probably buy Ender 3 Pro as my first printer. I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yep.
The E3 Pro has been my favorite printer Creality has released.
I think I've done the most printing on it
Yeah.
because honestly, like big printers are nice. I've got two big printers, but most of the time I'm not printing something that I need that much space on.
Yeah.
Like the biggest thing, the last huge thing I printed was the Mandalorian helmet. Really.
Yeah. And
So
I mean, it's interesting because Creality could flip this fast thing on its head and just make a resin printer, because that's
well,
technically faster than FDM. So
well, no, but they're coming out with two. They're coming out with two for sure. One's a resin and one's an FDM. There's two separate ones.
I was talking with somebody, and I forget who. I can't use their name anyway. But at any rate, last week they were like, I think they're trying to make printers like FDM printers that print resin, and I'm like, but why? Because technically the filament you print is a resin to start with, and then they make plasticize it.
I have seen one that they're using gel.
Yeah, I've seen the gel one. Is that the
So-
one that does the dental stuff?
I don't know.
Because
It's
prints
weird.
an egg, you get gel.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, and then you still need UV light to cure it and stuff. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But
Um,
then why wouldn't you just call it a resin printer and be done with it?
Yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, printers. They will always try to kind of like redefine themselves so that they look like they're new and innovative when really we're still using the i3 frame, right? And we're still using a hot end that just squishes out plastic. Raymond says the E3 V2 I think is a better choice. The couple upgrades on the E3 Pro
That
from
I
the E3
I
Pro are better.
I would agree there it's pretty close. The tensioners are a nice touch. Basically, it's got tensioners
Yeah,
on the X and the Y,
yeah,
right? And it's got the different screen, which is
yeah.
if you put a custom firmware on it,
Problematic.
or swap the boards, it becomes problematic, as
Yeah.
I found out this week when I had to rewire the wires coming from the Big Tree Tech board to the D1 screen.
Yeah.
You have to change the pinout quite a bit, but I mean, it wasn't like difficult, but I have experience doing that kind of thing. So for a newbie, it would be a little more difficult, I think.
Yeah. And
But it does work.
like I think the holy grail of printer, honestly, like between those two would be like probably the E3 V2, like Raymond says, but put the old screen back. I know it seems weird, but like those old screens without the D-Win attachments are more universal. And I mean,
well, they're very reliable too.
what are you doing on the screen that you need full color? And like, I mean, they
Well,
look flashier, I'll give you that.
Hey,
But
I'm the screen guy. I have how many screens did I do all the testing and videos on, right?
like 4 or 5 or 7
Oh,
or 10.
oh, yeah, it was a ton, right? And honestly, the touch screens are kind of I've come around to the point where they're using a serial connection and they actually have to send G code to your board.
Yep.
They're more of a pain in the ass, because if you immediately need to do something or something goes wrong,
Yep.
It's little more of a pain. Whereas if you're in the let's say Marlin type mode or the direct control mode, you get more reaction because you're actually controlling the board. You're not sending G code over the serial connection to send the information to have it either respond or not. It's a little bit better. But I also end up using a Pi more. So the screen, it's good to glance over and see kind of, are my temperatures good?
Yep.
Okay.
I like using my screen. The way I use my screen anyway is like, if something's gone wrong, it's a great way to quick stop the print without having to like grab your phone, log into Octoprint, or I mean, there's the hack you can do with old Android phones where you can like just sign into Octoprint on your phone or make that the Octoprint instance, and then you have a touch screen. Greg and I both have the sitting right there, the Pi screen thing. Those work too. It's just a screen is just one of those things.
I don't know. A lot of people, still use SD cards and SneakerNet, right? They don't have a Pi, and that's fine. Like if that's the way, you are mechanically switching that switch a lot of times if it's an older style board where you have to have the click when you put the SD card in. That's a point where things can fail. If someone puts it in and isn't paying attention and then they really ram it in and it's upside down, you can damage the SD card slot. So I lean more to sending it via the network because I very much like my Pis, and that kind of goes into my next topic, where I've been using a lot of different printers and whatnot, and all of them have Pis on it, and so I was like, I need to get them all updated. So I logged into Terminal and did all the updates on them, and one of them decided I'm no longer gonna boot, so I had to rebuild it. Yeah.
So and SD cards.
Oh man.
I mean, so like Greg said, the mechanical motion of putting it in and out can cause a problem on the board. The one issue we had with some firmware that we were helping with this week was the firmware file on the SD card that originally flashed it was corrupt because the SD card was bad. And then it flashed bad firmware, and then it's like, I'm just going to act randomly because I only have half my brain, right? And so when you're doing maintenance and when you're thinking about things to replace every 2 years, 3 years on your printer, an SD card is probably right up there.
Especially if you're doing lots of writing, maybe you end up using it and you're capturing lots of video with through the camera or whatever. You're writing to the SD card, and there's only so many writes until they wear out. So
Yeah, and if you use power loss recovery in Marlin, it writes to the SD card while it's printing. So
yeah,
you might not think you're writing, but like that feature right there, will kill your card in a couple years.
yeah.
And it's just the way SD cards are. USB keys are a little more reliable, but
that's because you don't use them continuously, right?
it's true. Yeah,
It's the same type. It's the same type of memory, but it's just the use case is slightly different. So,
if only we could find a way just to use a hard drive on that part.
yeah, right. Well,
But that has its own issues. But yeah, so I mean, the root of like a lot of weird problems is like even if you have like G code that's not printing properly and you've used an SD card to put it in the printer, is like check that SD card, and if it's the one that came with your printer, throw it out right now, and then go get another one. And I mean, I was doing maintenance a couple weeks ago when I was moving printers around, and on all of my big Tree Tech boards except one, all of the cards were bad. So like all of them, it just went. Boom.
My cards on the boards have been good. It's just the Pi that has died lately. But it's just one of those things, right? It's you want to do your maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
I went around and made sure I didn't have the default Raspberry password, right, and stuff like that, and just kind of made sure that everything was up to date and good. And then it just decided to not boot.
Yeah, if your password is Pi and Raspberry, I just ruined your day. So go on and change at least the password.
Yeah. Don't leave the defaults. That's bad.
So there's we talked about it. I don't know, like 2 months ago, maybe.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
There was arc. It's called arc overhang printing. So basically, it's printing overhangs without support,
which is pretty freaking cool.
It is neat.
I want to say that
bring up the picture for folks.
Didn't CNC Kitchen, didn't Stefan do something with that too?
That's not the thing. Hold on, screen. Yes, I went back to my screen. Sorry. Yeah, I think Stefan did a thing on it, and I also think
there was a few people that have done stuff.
The other guy?
I haven't tried it yet. Have you tried it yet?
No, I don't have. So part of the reason I haven't tried it is I haven't printed anything that would really require it. Like lots of the stuff I print, either I design for no overhangs or it has no overhangs, so I don't need it. Right?
Yeah.
But like you can see here, the answer is yes. I've played with it. I haven't printed anything because my printers are all unplugged at the moment from reorganizing the room. So yes, I've played with it. It looks really good. I think I'll do some printing with it this week, probably at work. But yeah, there's something else coming up too along that same line, Ray. That's it'll throw not a wrench, but add to the excitement of the Bamboo Slicer. But yeah, if you weren't here last week, Bamboo Slicer has its own open source now for other printers.
And we had a brief look at it in the last one. So if you want to go back and look at that, you can. It's very Prusa-esque.
Yep. So the big news with this arc, so you can see from the picture that basically this arc overhang lets you print again without basically having support structure, because it can print at such an angle that it basically kind of stacks. So one of the side effects of printing like this is you do get very, very noticeable and very, very wide filament path extrusions on your print, and that's because it just needs that base, right? Because you can't.
Well,
really
it's pretty impressive. So it must like take into account the distance between the edge that it's printing against, and then extrude a little more material so that it grabs, so it doesn't droop. But I don't know exactly how the algorithm works, but it's kind of cool.
And that's the thing, it's an algorithm, and so there's a German fellow. I'm going to scroll down to get his name. And there you go. Nikolai Wackenschwan, maybe. I destroyed that. But anyway, that I was like, this really
Nikolai,
smart guy.
Saskatchewan.
Yeah. He's Canadian now. This guy, he wrote a plugin for Prusa Slicer. And then now you can actually add it directly into Prusa Slicer. So they did that using Python. And so he used Python to bring the algorithm into Prusa Slicer, which Python's an easy-ish language once you get going, but to plug it into other slicers is kind of fun. But
well, I hope, and hopefully, if it's something that's, looks like it's going to be a big improvement for people, or another kind of improvement to the slicer, I'm sure it'll get adopted.
Yeah.
By the Prusa team and it properly integrated in.
Yeah.
Because they tend to, if they find something like tree support,
yeah,
or something else that another slicer has and it's open source,
yeah,
they will consider, if it brings value to people, they will consider integrating it into their browser their slicer.
He meant slicer, everybody. It's okay. Yeah, and so Prusa is a very Prusa Slicer at this moment is very collaborative, and they're very forward thinking. What was your catchphrase? You remember? You said it earlier.
Yeah. Oh man. So it was the Kira one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody wants to be Prusa Slicer except us.
Except Kira.
And so
and the reason we go there is,
so we talked about Bamboo last week, and there's something that happened this week, and that is Anchor Make, which is the slicer for their Anchor printers, announced that they're going open source, and you will be able to use it on any printer. And part of that reason is because they're integrating and forking Prusa Slicer.
Yeah, and it's funny, like their early name for it. Get that? Wait for it.
Wait for it.
Anchor Prusa Slicer.
You didn't even do a drum roll or anything. Yeah, right. Creative, but they're doing it. So there's a new version of that slicer.
I kind of like that people are trying to because they feel Prusa is very solid and whatnot. I mean, you look at Super Slicer and whatnot. So they know it's a good base. Yep. They know it's open source. It'll be interesting to see if they take off.
Yep.
And they can maintain it, because Prusa Slicer does iterate their versions.
They do.
Very regularly, and so I don't know, and because I'm not a developer, you're a programmer, you've got a background. If someone forks something and then the original fork changes and whatnot, there's got to be a certain amount of redevelopment that you have to do.
Well, the good part is that with the fork on Git is you can just fork a current branch and then that stays. But you're right, when they change to a new one, then you would grab the new one and either redevelop, right, or
well, I don't know how much effort, because depending on what you've done to the fork that you made, the changes that they've implemented, if you bring those in, you're going to have to do a lot of regression testing and whatnot to see what broke, because depending
work for Power School or those things.
But it's one of those things, like it's not just as simple as allowing Prusa to keep updating their stuff, because they have their own vision and their own goals and their own
But that's
trends,
the important
right?
part there is you're only using a part of Prusa Slicer.
Right.
So they're using like more of the slicing engine and stuff like that. So like we saw that last week when we looked at Bamboo Labs.
Yeah.
It looked really good.
Visually, it was similar-ish.
Yeah, it was a cross really between all of the slicers. So like you could definitely feel Prusa Slicer in the forefront, but then you're like, wow, that's a simplified thing, or wow, that's a Kira thing.
Didn't it feel more webby? like
Well,
kind of HTML-y,
it did,
then
but that makes sense because
then
there's a cloud slice version of it too, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, it does. Yeah, it's true.
but
It's
yeah,
true.
it did. But like the slicer popped, and I don't know if you guys agree. Like you were here last week, most of you. I don't know if you agree with that, but like the slicer looked really good, from like just the standpoint of UI.
Yep.
And it seems so far to have worked and sliced and like done that fine. We'll do a few prints. It'll be interesting to see how the
Yep.
slicing engine works. But
Yep.
as for this
Absolutely.
Anchor one, so the Anchor Make is going to be available for beta very soon, and they're hoping to launch by April.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll see what happens there. Now the Kira, we talked about the Kira beta last week, and it's still in beta.
Yeah.
But the interesting part is no longer do they have the beta link on their main page. So like
Oh,
when they
interesting.
used to like do a beta, it was right underneath the
But
main
well,
version.
it is on. It's in the hub.
It's
Though.
in the
You can-
GitHub, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just interesting because it's almost like they're like if you're in the know now, you can have it, and if you don't, you're just waiting for the main page to update.
I'm wondering if they're close to either beta 2 or something, or maybe release candidates. They're
Yeah.
pretty good about going from beta to release candidates
They are.
fairly quickly. Now, again, we said last week, they are a new company-ish,
Yeah.
right? Because they merged, so maybe some of their team is different. So maybe they'll do a few more betas and stuff before they go release candidate.
We don't know.
We'll see.
We don't know.
We don't know.
But
We
we
do-
do know it'll happen.
We just work
sometime.
here.
Yeah, we just work here. So, we look like I'm looking forward to the Anchor Make. I think the Anchor printer was more disruptive to the printer, like the new printer ecosystem, than the Bamboo Labs. I think like the Bamboo Lab had more flashy advertising for sure, but I think like disruptive features at the price point, like the Anchor Maker printer was a little, and I'm look forward to using their slicer a bit more.
It was interesting, but I just don't know. Its price for what it did seems a little high, because if you look at it, it's a over-engineered Ender 3
It
really
is.
style, right?
It is, but
So-
they built
so-
in all the features that you would like. Again, it's kind of like it's sort of like an Ender 3 V2 where they built in the features that make that one so great. But like, I don't see it as overpriced. It's $799. I think that's a great.
Well, that's
price point.
$7.99 US.
Yeah, but for what
Yeah.
what you're getting and the ecosystem, I think.
But we, if you, I don't know. I don't know. I guess without actually trying it,
Come fight me, bro. No,
you know,
I'm just kidding.
Anchor,
Yeah.
if you want us to prove us wrong, send us one and we'll gladly take a look at it.
I like how all the printers. So, all the printers with an i3 frame always say you can print 5 times faster than their competitors. No, it's an i3 frame. No.
Maybe if it was a Core XY.
I just want to share the title that we had in the spreadsheet for the last one that we covered with the slicers. It was "Hold Me Tight, More Slicers Are Coming." So, I have to make this big screen before I share it because I can't share the name of the person.
It's okay. And I don't know if they'll hear me when we switch screens. So
They
we'll
do.
see.
I made sure that they do. So I'm gonna switch to my screen capture again for one of the last things, and the topic of this one is just no. So here, just watch. I would say my eyes are hurting right now,
Yeah.
but that's not true because your eyes don't feel pain, so that laser will eat through your eyeballs
Yes.
and you'll be blind.
If anyone is thinking of getting into laser cutting or burning or whatever, this open laser system it's dangerous.
Just and the topic of this one in our notes was just no, 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 and yeah,
Uh,
like
there's a reason why if you go to any professional system, it's fully enclosed.
yeah,
It's got a ventilating system to suck the fumes away
yeah.
because I mean, if you're burning, even if balsa wood or any MDF or whatever, you're there's glue in there and it's being burnt and it's becoming gaseous and whatnot, and
Well,
you don't want
MDF if you're
you
laser
don't
cutting
want to
it.
you don't want to breathe that stuff
No,
in
you might
at
as well
all,
go to the. If you burn MDF, you're just breathing in formaldehyde, so you might as well
right?
go to the funeral home and just get it started.
Yeah.
Like,
So they also have safeties built in where they have the shield on top that
yeah,
is properly filtered for UV light or whatever
yeah.
the light is. But if you even prop it up a bit, it shuts it. It pauses. It stops it right away because they don't want any of that light leaking out unprotected.
So like the thing with the, yeah, well, if you're playing, well, if you play with a laser, the smoke is the least of your problems. And you're right. Like, even with glasses, like, so let's say you had proper eye protection. Let's say you had, like, just you yourself had proper eye protection. This is clearly in an office. This is clearly in a shared working space. And like it's irresponsible to run it. And then like some people will say, well, like it does look like a really thin balsa wood or something there, which in itself is just producing smoke. But like, look at the grate underneath. So
Yeah,
if the
no,
laser
it's
actually
definitely,
cuts, it could reflect.
yeah.
And I mean, you are looking at a blue light laser here, so that's slightly less worse than a CO2 laser, but
I
slightly,
but
slightly. It's still going to wreck you.
Well, and I mean, you shouldn't look at welding, right, without a welding mask.
I mean,
either. This is worse
this is
because
a little different because like welding is that plasma,
yeah,
and that's, but like you're not wrong. Like this is worse because it's deceivingly innocent, right?
yes,
Like it's not like this flashpoint that you're like, oh, I've been told
exactly.
my whole life not to watch. Now that being said, there are materials if you are using like real wood. Like if you find like a thin piece of real wood, that's probably okay because you're just burning smoke at that point. But like Greg said, as if you're gonna cut any sort of like thin balsa wood ply or MDF
Or you want to do some acrylic
oh
or
goodness, acrylic you might as well
right,
do outside or not at all.
right. Like you have to be aware. That's one of the reasons why in K to 12 we don't allow them, and they have to be have a proper filtration system. They have to be properly vented, and they have to be properly, they can't just be a random
No.
off the shelf. Let's buy a snap maker and plop the laser on.
Yeah,
Nope.
nope, not gonna work. And then my favorite one is if you do have, like, let's say you got everything, so you put this inside it, you have this very one, and you're like, that's not very safe. So you drop an enclosure over it and you make it safe. That's awesome. And then you're venting it, and like if it's in a shop class or something, or a shop, not even a class, let's just say a shop, and you're venting it, but you vent it into the same vent system that has like all your sawdust and keepings from the other vacuums. And it's
No,
like,
no,
you're just gonna catch fire now.
well, it's one of our high schools got a plasma cutter, and he just wanted to just run it in the shop. I'm like, no, you need a proper ventilation system to suck everything up.
Yeah, you do.
It's he didn't even have a proper water table.
No,
or anything. So it's like,
I don't think this is good. But like,
and he was doing it right by the sawdust bin.
I like the sawdust bin, but like, so like laser again, like, and so that thing, the video we watched was titled, "Wow, look what we're testing. Who's next?" Right, and then a bunch of, "Oh, I'll test it, I'll test it, I'll test it," and we kind of talked about that last week too. But like that product is not safe, and in its current version wouldn't be safe. I was actually reading an interesting article in Popular Mechanics that said if the glasses you're wearing are actually rated to protect your eyes from laser, the glass themselves should burn, like all over the like the lens should burn when the laser hits it. So I'm like, oh, that
Okay.
kind of makes sense actually, because then it's stopping the radiation and burning.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. That's
Um,
true. Yeah.
So
Well,
I mean, and that would be a great way to know that something was wrong, because you're not going to know. But if all of a sudden your glasses are like turning black in there and you can't see, you're like, oh, geez, hit the emergency stop. Right? Oh, no.
well, yeah. Well, your skin would probably be melting off as well. So,
Well, thankfully, the radiation from like the blue nanometer laser, I mean, it might tingle, but yeah, no.
I
Like,
I don't know.
if you get those CO2 lasers,
If you stuck your hand underneath, I think you'd get
you get a little burn.
a pretty good burn. Yeah,
But
don't do that.
I will say in the video, you noticed that this laser in particular was doing multiple passes on it. Looked like maybe a 2mm board, and
Yep.
that's about as effective as blue lasers are. Like if you
Yeah.
wanted to cut something, you're going to be there a long time and just back
Yeah, you
and
need
forth,
you
back
need a
and forth.
CO2 laser.
And
for that.
then it's fun because you have to align most of them because people are too cheap to buy.
Well, if you buy
it,
if you buy a good one, they
That's
they align pretty
buy
well.
a good one like Glowforge or I
Something.
forget the other company we were looking at, but like that one was like $25,000.
Oh yeah, they're not cheap.
Like,
they're you have to have a reason to have one at that point.
But they're
so.
neat. That's
They
my
are.
reason.
They're really cool. And do you know who else is neat?
Hold
These
on. Okay.
wonderful people
Okay, hold
that
on.
you're going to have to talk
No,
about.
no, I want you to talk about it. Okay, guys, if you can't hear Greg on this next screen, let us know. Okay, go.
All right. Well, I just, again, would like to thank all these wonderful people because these wonderful people support us on Patreon. And hopefully they can hear me. And if they can hear me, they'll say it in chat. I know they will.
They heard you. I was watching the video.
Excellent.
Yes,
So-
we did.
So those wonderful people join us on Discord all the time, and we love to chat with them and everything. So it's great to have them all along for the ride. And again, David said we're going to have a little Patreon get together, hopefully next Sunday, and go from there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. See y'all then.
So don't forget, you can find us on like all these sources here too.
Yes.
So if you're not
That's true.
subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Don't be a snob. We like you too. Hit the like button. you know.
Absolutely.
Then, I mean, we mentioned Patreon, but all of our socials, which are currently mostly hacked, are at 3dmakeit.ca. But we do most of our stuff on YouTube and Discord nowadays, and so the Discord is available. We had one of our Patreons, Dominic, posted a neat video by another YouTuber that's been around for a while, and he's kind of made a
customizable,
customizable
models.
Yeah, which is cool.
So it's kind of neat.
Thingiverse has done that, but this one looks a little more robust. It uses OpenSCAD to do it. So, I mean, if you want to check it out, the model, I'll drop it in the YouTube's link here. Hold on, I do such things. I think I dropped the right one. No,
it's worth having a look. There's a free tier and then there's a paid tier.
Yep.
And so a free tier is probably good to check it out. And I haven't done that yet, but check it out. It's kind of neat.
There we go. That's better. For some reason it just pasted undefined first. Sorry about that. But it looks cool. And if you have time and you want to check out and see what he has for models over there, again, like lots of brackets. Think geometric things that usually work better when you change their size to fit your need. That's kind of what we got over there.
Yeah. So it's what do you call it when you have got all the things defined?
Parametric.
Parametric.
Yep.
So they're all parametric modeled, so you can adjust all the different settings and resize them and whatnot. And that's a skill I'd like to learn to build stuff in Fusion. Is so that you can then tweak stuff and whatnot. So
And I mean, it's like I said, it's not the only one out there, but it popped up in the Patreon and it looked pretty cool. So I wanted to give it a shout out. Thank you, Dominic, for bringing it up this week. And again, if you guys are a part of the Patreon community, you'll see it in the Discord there. I did reconnect our Discord feed, so we are back
Did
online.
it break?
Yes, briefly. There was a connector that you had to redo with Patreon because they changed the API call, and so we should be good. But if you notice that you don't have access, let me know. You can reach us at info@3dmakeit.ca for stuff like that. But yes, next week we'll do the Patreon, so look for the restream links in Discord, and we will pop them up. Wow. On the that was a long sentence. We will pop up the links in Patreon too. So if you're on the website or in the Discord, you'll see it.
Absolutely.
Come hang out. It'll be a great time.
It always is.
The madness. No, we like you. We like you a lot, right, man?
Of course we do.
We'll come visit you. We're gonna have coffee. That's what we're gonna do.
Problem. I think what we have to do is we have to go up and grab him after work, and then we can actually go for supper because he doesn't get enough time at lunch to go for lunch. So
what if we kidnap them all?
Oh yeah, take him and the boss. There you go.
But no, we definitely like all of you, and thanks for being part of the community. I think we'll sign off for the day here.
Yep. Thanks everyone for joining us. It was great. Awesome.
Thanks for coming out. And until next time, have a good one.
Bye. Bye.